Oh, welcome everybody to Worcester Council Theater 3000 for another week reconvene meeting. They didn't come back from executive session last week, it sounds like. I don't know, I wasn't here.
Neither did we. We decided in the middle of the executive session that we were too distressed to go on, and didn't come back to see what they did after that. But it seems like they didn't really do anything and just pushed everything off until this meeting today. So we're going to be covering all of that stuff.
It looks like, if I'm not mistaken, about 10 orders is what wasn't covered.
Yeah. It's just 10 orders. We can go over those a little later. I don't particularly feel like pulling up the tab with that right now.
No, didn't seem to be anything crazy, but
Nothing crazy.
Luckily, crazy stuff has already happened this week. So
there's so much crazy stuff to get into before we talk about any of the stupid bullshit that the council is going to be talking about tonight. And that's part of the reason why we might, depending on the time that this goes, we might try to do a power hour tonight. If it doesn't go till 11 o'clock, like most city council meetings, we might try to do a little podcast. But we'll see how that goes. We'll play it by ear. Big thing breaking this afternoon: the U.S. Attorney Rachel Rollins is out, has resigned, and that is the U.S. Attorney who instigated the Worcester Department of Justice investigation of the police department. So, big question mark as to whether that investigation continues.
I imagine it won't. Yeah, insane. What happened here?
I don't know. I was reading up. I mean, there's not a whole lot of details yet, but it seemed she resigned because there was some sort of ethics investigation into her going to a Democratic Party fundraiser and also using a personal phone. Both of those things rang to me as like sort of like run of the mill stuff.
Right.
But I suppose it was enough for her to resign. Before resigning was one of the more progressive sort of U.S. attorneys out there, and that's probably the reason why the Worcester Police Department was investigated in the first place. And it is unclear whether they will appoint a progressive Democrat to that role or a Maura Healey / Ed Augustus style Democrat to that role.
I mean, the good thing is, at least, is that I mean, I guess it's good that they're following ethics. If that,
that's good.
But fine. Also that it's the same administration appointing.
Right.
That, so, it's not like we're like, oh, we had a good one, and then like
and then Jeff Sessions took over. Yeah,
right.
It's not going to be that dire, but these things, these Department of Justice patterns and practice investigations are. Well, okay, so Epic Stratton, like, who said that and in what context? Like that. That's an easy thing to say right now.
Yeah, unless it's Merrick Garland saying it, then I'm not. Like
these totally things are political footballs, and they get dropped all the time, and they take years, and no one is ever made privy to the sort of internal mechanisms of how these things work.
Well, that's the other part too, is like even likely scenario, if she stuck around, it wasn't going to be like, oh, we're going to get heads are going to roll on this. Like really, we were just like happy to have some pressure put on them, have some embarrassment put on them. I was never thought that like anything was actually going to happen. They would never let that happen.
Yeah, no. It was just nice. It's like someone who's been gaslit for years, having somebody else come in and be like, "No, you were what you believed was right."
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But when it came time to like when the report came out and it was time to like punish people and that actually happened, hell no, they would Pelican brief every fucking person in the city before they ever let that happen. So
yeah. It was just going to be like, do some different kind of training. that like the bad guys will just continue to ignore with the support of the police union.
Well, they get more money and start a new division to, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, right. More money for training. That'll just be like counted as detail work, and they'll continue to be the top 50 paid highest people in the city for just doing a bunch of bullshit. Yeah.
So,
there's no hope.
There's never any hope.
Another fun thing at Augustus, moving up in the world, state secretary of housing.
Yeah.
Maura Healey showed her true colors, pointing the gentrification man to the anti-gentrification office that she promised on the campaign trail.
What spots does he have his fucking little like roach claws in that he is just like constantly like
just failing up,
and it's like not even failing, just absolutely doing fucking nothing upwards, you know?
Right. But just like being a guy that's available, I guess, you know, that's just kind of like his thing. I don't know. It's a very weird trajectory to go from Worcester City manager to an 8-month stint as a fake position at Dean College to now you're the Secretary of Housing, the first Secretary of Housing in 30 years,
right?
For the state of Massachusetts. And you're basically the guy that shows that Maura Healey's full of shit and didn't mean anything she said,
right? And
is just going to be Baker 2.0. You know,
and we knew that.
It's
always hurtful when you get the confirmation. Like,
it's hurtful, especially for it to be that specific guy. You know, just for us. Yeah, to us,
at us,
to us. You know, probably not to anybody in any other part of the state, but to people in Worcester, the fact that it's that guy that you use to show that nothing's going to change on affordable housing policy, and the situation is just going to continue to get worse. Like that's just awesome.
Yeah. Just absolutely chill times for the state.
Yeah.
Maura Healey also signaling her support for the Joe Biden's Title IX changes, which, you know, not great.
Right. Well, she's a good sport.
Yeah.
She's getting ready for the goofiest presidential run of all time, and probably 2028.
Just getting fucking demolished.
Oh my god, just getting wrecked.
Yeah, not even making it out of Massachusetts alive.
Yeah, it's just gonna be like, no, I didn't actually think that drag queens are real people, and then it's just like, nope, oh man, yeah, you're done. Tough time to care.
Wow.
Really should have been the headline of the newsletter that I just put up today.
Travis, that's another t-shirt.
Yeah. On it. Tough time to care. Tough time to care. It's been a tough time to care for years. This week is particularly a tough time to care. Who knows? Maybe the caring will pay off, but I'm not making any promises.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to readjust our sights, and our trajectory and what we can hope for, and I think we just focus on destroying Donna Calorio.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah,
Donna Calorio, the lead lady uncle of Worcester, Worcester's premier lady uncle. You know, the right wing of Worcester politics is comprised pretty much solely of uncles and lady uncles.
Yeah.
And they're represented on the city council by 4 lady uncles: Donna Calorio, Kate Toomey, Candy Merrill Carlson, and Mo Bergman. Rounding it out, a little bit of gender representation on the lady uncle front. And they're just the people that exist to make sure that nothing good ever happens. And that the uncles, when they're shouting and when they're punching the drywall, are always heard.
Yes. Yeah.
Guys, our uncle's here.
Oh, bring him in. Yay.
Was that ageist?
Unky Brendan.
What's going on here?
Yes, we're guilty of being ageist. Cancel the stream. You know, just delete this. Delete the whole page. We're toast. We've been ageist towards Brendan Melican.
I'm actually pro ageism, just based on most of the people that claim it.
based on life experience. Yeah. What did I miss?
We are going to destroy Donna Calorio. Ed Augustus was named head of housing as a prank on us specifically. Maura
To
Healy
inflict punishment on us specifically. Yeah.
Maura Healy confirmed that she stinks. And
how about that Department of Justice?
Yeah, right. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Worcester investigation. See you later. We had a good run. They thought about it for a couple of months and don't want to open that can of worms. It would be funny to someday learn that the two were like intricately related. Yeah.
Did you see what the reason for why this transpired?
She went to a fundraiser?
Yeah, it was a Jill Biden fundraiser. What a terrible way to go down.
Yeah.
Sleepy Joe.
Speaking of ageism, yeah. the worst reason to get fired ever.
Yeah, for supporting him.
Yeah, it really seems kind of thin to me. Am I wrong in that? Like, this is like a very thin sort of investigation to take somebody down, given the shit that everyone does all the time.
Well, it's just an easy unforced error for her to be a prosecutor, like for her to be an attorney,
right,
and to go to a fundraiser of any kind seems like an unforced error, and then to go to the one for the guy that you're supposed to not admit is your boss is like, you know.
And there was use of like work cell phone and stuff like if you have the title U.S. attorney and you don't have at least 15 burners for like multiple purposes, like you did not read the job description at all, and you probably should lose your job.
Just stupid, but definitely feels like of every, you know, it's like they say in like football, like there's holding on every play. In basketball, there's like a block or a charge on every single play. You could call a foul on every single play. You could call a foul on every single politician, every single person in or around politics. But it definitely feels like, you know, maybe she stepped a little too far with this investigation. And they're like, oh, then I guess we'll just get her on the thing we have on everyone that's ever like done this job.
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, every other U.S. attorney, like basically half of them in the country, are like, you know what? I think we had the wrong idea about these Nazis, and they're not being disciplined in such a fashion, you know.
Well, the Nazis are fighting with themselves, though, right? Like that whole Patriot Front thing has pissed off the right, so now they're calling the Patriot Front Antifa because they're not real patriots. They're like, there's a bunch of infighting happening. That's just beautiful.
Cool. They should all kill each other.
Yeah. No, I mean, if we're only so lucky.
Yeah. That'd be awesome in a video game.
Yeah.
That
is Call of Duty.
This badass T-shirt.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to show y'all.
Anti-racist grandma has her own shirt, and you can get it on wct3k.storenavy.com
right now. It's
right
there
now, and new discounts on on most of our designs. Right?
Yeah, I pulled all the prices down. We're not making scratch off of it, but we just want you guys to have.
We just want people to have shirts. Yeah, get them and we'll tell her about it next time we see her. Next time we send Bill down to
we should buy
Gonzo Report.
We should just give her one.
I'll just deliver it to her in person on the stream.
Yeah.
There you go.
We absolutely will get her one. Yeah. If anyone sees her, find out what her t-shirt size is. We'll get her one.
She's got to be a medium or a small.
So. Yeah, we'll find
out. I love how she was like, I think I heard about you guys, but she had no idea what my name is or the program's name or anything. She's just like, I think there's some weird guys watching me on the internet. It was so cute.
The exact opposite of my experience at the community meeting for the Zion Lutheran shelter a week and a half ago, where wearing an N95 mask and a baseball hat, I was recognized within 5 seconds. As soon as I opened my mouth, accused of being the Woot Nanny, and then told that our show is evil, and was name dropped about 17 times in an hour-long meeting. So
where's the lie?
Cool.
Yeah,
the Woot Nanny.
Dude, it was the most amazing experience I've ever had, because anytime people like will come up every once in a while and like have nice things to say, And I always jokingly say like, "Oh, always nice to meet a fan." And then this lady said like, "Oh, I know your show." And I was like, "Oh, always nice to meet a fan. Thank you so much for watching." And she's like, "I don't watch." And then later on, wanted to talk about something specifically she saw on the show. 2 weeks ago, apparently I made a joke about sitting during the national anthem.
Oh, you can't do that, dude.
And I don't even remember doing it. I am proud of it, but I don't remember doing it. And she wanted to call me out on it. So she came up and she said, "I accidentally logged into your show. I didn't know what I was doing. I accidentally logged into your show." And I just said, "Really? Are you sure?"
Yeah. Sure.
And then she said I was disgusting, and that on behalf of her, the veterans in her family, she thanks me. And I said, "Ma'am, do you think I don't have veterans in my family? Do you think every single person that you meet on the street that disagrees with you doesn't have veterans in their family or in their community or in their friend group?" Like, I graduated high school in 2005. I have multiple friends that were blown up in Iraq. Like,
yeah,
fucking chill out. Like, you don't own like,
right.
you don't
People
own
like that.
military
Veterans are
family.
just synonymous with fringe weirdos. They're like, oh, the veterans are all on our side.
Dude, it's so crazy. She was so blown away when I said that I have military members in my family. She could not. She was like, well, like she genuinely was shocked by that. Like it shut her up. She stopped talking about it.
Checkmate.
Yeah.
Wait, Bryan,
Can you repeat the
story you texted about the liberal? The liberal incident, because that's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
The other person that was there was an older guy. There was a few people there that was just older white guys that could not shut their mouths, like the entire time, were just interrupting people and like being like, property values are gonna go down and like all this crazy shit. And there was one guy that was sitting near me and like just kept yelling at people. Like he was like yelling at people talking. Like Sean Rose was there and tried to like ask a few questions, and he was just yelling at him the entire time. At one point I was like, "Hey dude, can you like have a modicum of respect for anybody else around you?" And like he couldn't figure out that it was me that said it because I was wearing a mask. And he was so like, "Oh." So we walked outside at the end of the meeting. The old ladies were waiting to yell at me, and he was standing like as far across the street as he possibly could, waiting for me, but way across the street. And he goes, "Oh, here they come, these liberals with their masks on. Hey, you better keep your mask on. You don't want to catch something." Like,
dude, sick burn.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll catch you fucking sleeping, pal." Like,
that's so sick.
And then he was like, "Yeah, you liberal, you suck. You suck." And then he insulted the sweatshirt I was wearing because it didn't match my shoes. And yeah. And then something about trying to destroy his neighborhood, and then said I should
right eye for the leftist guy.
Yeah, it was very strange. Yeah. And I was like, "Okay, I think you should go to therapy."
How do you sign into the wrong Twitch stream by accident? Like when she was out there looking for her normal amaranth stream. I told her that. Upon us.
It's like, our show's not totally easy to find. It's actually kind of a problem. So
yeah, like absolute bullshit. This is the hardest thing to find in the world.
Dude,
you know?
Like without Travis every week, I'd never find my way here.
Yeah. It was amazing. And I like, and they held me there for like 10 minutes to talk to me about like how bad how bad of an idea the shelter is, because there's a lot of nip bottles in the neighborhood. Was a problem. And then one woman's problem with it. Well, one woman, her problem with it is that there's going to be rats. And then also that there's not enough like room for the kids to play if there's going to be families there. Which seems like a really disingenuous argument to make when they're going to be on the street potentially if they're not like, you know. This is also a woman that I used to work with when I worked at Tweeds, and a few years ago her son he riding his motorcycle, he got hit by a car. It was a terrible accident. I think it was a drunk driver that hit him. It was like awful, and he needed like a lot of surgeries. He like needed a lot of like they raised a lot of money. They needed a lot of help. The whole neighborhood donated money. I donated money. I don't even like these people. I donated like, you know, like everybody like came and like helped them out in like myriad ways. And it's just so galling to me that like she's so far out in front against this, when it's like, why is it okay for people to help your family in a time of need, but it's not okay for us to choose to help other people that are in desperate need as well? And
right,
that seems to be the prevailing like attitude there, is that like obviously the type of people that would be against something like this are the people that can't see outside themselves, but like to be so like not able to see the hypocrisy there is pretty gross.
right.
And these are the people that went to the meeting last night, and this is the woman that got Donna Calorio like ahead of time involved in this. She told me she did. Is a lady that lives across the street, and her complaint is that she does all this work to help. So they already have an apartment there. The former like priest, like the residence there for the priest, they don't use it anymore. And so they have a family from Afghanistan. I guess a translator that worked with the U.S. Army, and his family they sponsored him over here, and he lives there, and he has 12 kids. And sounds like it's actually a really good story. And these people hate them because there's so many kids. They don't like the kids. And this lady, her whole thing is that she's like, well, I go there and I help them all the time. I brought them all these toys, and I clean up and I do their yard. My sons like landscape their yard and blah blah blah, all this stuff, and nobody else in this neighborhood helps. I'm the only person that helps. Nobody else in this neighborhood helps. And I was like, ma'am, like that sounds frustrating. It sounds like your beef is with your neighbors, not with the church.
Yeah.
So I don't quite understand what your problem is, but like, it sounds like you just don't see other problems, you know, outside of your own life. And then she was like yelling during the meeting about how like her mom's in hospice and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's really hard. That's really tough. That has nothing to do with like the shelter.
Anything.
So I guess in the context of this, like, I don't care. And all the things that you're saying to me about how like this is a bad idea don't rise to the level of like not doing this. So, you know, like I guess
it's not political. It's not a political project. This is just big lady uncle energy coming to the fore. It's spilling over.
They desperately want Burncoat to be a town and not be part of Worcester. And they think living up there on the hill, they think that they living in their houses that they inherited from their parents, they think that they can keep this stuff away from them. And they think that if they do, then they don't have to deal with the problems. And they think they can vote for all the shitty people that they want and put things like make things this way that causes the homelessness, that causes the issues that we see, that make the shelter necessary. But then they think they can put up a wall and like hide from it.
Which is hilarious from the perspective of a Tatna kid, because I too always wanted Burncoat to be a town and not part of Worcester.
Right. Yeah.
I've been demanding we build a wall for decades.
In many ways, I agree. Yeah. So yeah, it's gross. It's pretty ugly, and you know, even like the rhetoric around like Blessed Sacrament, where like, you know, people are trying to insist that like this is different than that. This is different than that. It's like, well, even if it was the exact same as that, then it's still like necessary. And just like listening and just saying like, well, Wayne Griffin said that it, like people shit on his porch, like doesn't like cool. That could have been anybody. If you talk to Wayne Griffin for 10 minutes, you'd want to shit on his porch too. Like,
I'm sure he did absolutely nothing to deserve that.
I have shit on Wayne's porch at least 3 times this week. That's just what we do in Tatna.
Right. So to say that it is, you know, I don't know. But I guess we should probably listen in to the meeting, Travis.
Yeah, so
this isn't the meeting. This is
what's happening here is they're in finance committee and they're reviewing some sort of budget. I haven't been able to figure out which based on what we're seeing here, but I got to be honest, these budget hearings are
or that
fucking
program.
awful. Listen to. They are terrible.
We get
the only one that's worthwhile in like a
from,
doomer sort of sense is
family of a
the police
golfer who
departments
unfortunately
and the school
passed away in an
departments.
accident.
But it sounds like we're probably talking about, I got the
over
agenda
years
here.
ago. And the rest
I'm
of it
going to
is
say that
very
we're
tiny
talking
operational budget for the
redevelopment authority, economic
So there's
development right now based on,
specific
oh no,
about
this is
it within-
DPW.
within
Sorry,
the
sorry. This is DPW. My bad.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
can,
for me, I would just
And
yeah.
unfortunately, DPW is the first one in a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 departments that are getting reviewed. So I don't know what their plan is tonight, whether they're going to just continue to do these budget hearings all night and then reconvene to finish the council agenda.
Right.
After that, whenever that may be. That fucking sucks. Hold on, I'll throw this if that's the case. I'll throw this agenda in the.
Yeah, we start the power hour.
Let's do it. You guys all got sucked into watching the power hour.
I am saying that it might be a pretty good time to just do the power hour.
Let's do it. Let's do it right now.
I think that's
okay.
Right.
But I want to clue you guys in on a little bit of inside baseball. I'm using my laptop's internal microphone right now because I stole my roommate's good Getty Blue mic, and he has since stolen it back. So before we do the power hour, I want to make one more attempt at looking through his belongings and trying to find the good microphone, because he's not responding to my calls or texts on this matter, despite the fact that he said my using it is totally fine. So
sounds
I want
passive aggressive, but yeah, you do that, and then we'll
and then we'll do the power hour. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. Let me.
In
just
the meantime,
one more shot.
While Bill's looking for his mic, if someone could call Bill's upstairs neighbor and get them to start banging on the floor with a broomstick, as is tradition, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, that was great. That was great when that happened. I really like that. Okay. Give me a couple minutes and I'll be back.
All right, sounds good. So last night they had the zoning board of appeals meeting to follow up on one of the agenda items was this temporary shelter at Zion Lutheran. So basically what is happening is there's a nonprofit that is buying the whole complex from the church, and then they are they're like going to build out part of the former school and all that stuff to be 6 apartments that are like set up for families, and then they're going to have an office there for their own like group, and then the church will then lease out the church from them. Like it's like, it sounds like a good deal for the church. The pastor was there and was excited about it. So seems pretty low stakes, and obviously that can never be the case. But they had the meeting last night. I was at funeral stuff yesterday. I didn't get to watch, and I'm not entirely sure how it all played out. But it sounds like Colorio was their inside agent, and was able to get it delayed, not stopped. And I haven't been able to I haven't seen anything about what the actual mechanism for that was, but
so
I'm
know
curious.
A few people who were there, and the reports I got made it sound like it was the same meeting that you attended, except following Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was just a bunch of lunatics, but mostly sticking to parliamentary procedure, which is great, because when you stick to parliamentary procedure, that's when you realize that most of the people in the room are just arguing with the voices in their head, and they shouldn't really be allowed to be a part of public discourse. But yeah.
So I want to see what the next step is for it, and if anybody was able to be there or be on Zoom for it. If you have any insight into what went down with it, it sounds like Donna's method was like, well, I have concerns, I have questions, which is her constant refrain. So I don't know. From what I saw from their presentation, it doesn't seem like this is something that could easily be stopped. It's not. They're not looking for a zoning change. They're not looking for like much in the way of things that could cause like the zoning board to like stop it. Sounds like they're following everything. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, it's just getting through these psychos, letting it into airing their grievances. But it's I don't know. It's interesting because this isn't going to be the last one of these. There's going to be more that are necessary, and there's not going to be a lot of places besides churches that are probably going to be able to step up and do it. There's a reason why we heard it when they were talking about Blessed Sacrament. Batista said it. There's nowhere else that can do this. There's nowhere else that's set up to do it. The city doesn't have the desire or the building to make this happen. And the churches are going to be the ones that step up. And, it's the one positive thing that a church can do, then I'm all for it.
Right. They're supposed to be community serving populations, and they all are just loaded with space. They need space to hold their congregation. This is space that can be adaptable to suit the needs of the public.
Yeah.
Just to stick with my utter disdain for the greater Burncoat neighborhood, I would like to propose that the Amazon warehouse at the former Greendale Mall would be the perfect location for large-scale permanent siting of services of these nature.
Right. Yeah, they're not fucking using it.
Yeah. Let Jeff pay for it.
That'd be actually pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
They'd build their own town there.
Yeah. Then you'd have people in the neighborhood complaining that it's not fair that the unhoused population has better highway access than everybody else in the city.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Burncoat would be against the Amazon facility. All of a sudden, and they fought so desperately to make it happen. There's something to that, Sally. I'm not positive what the actual law is, but there is part of that. And again, that was something that Batista brought up and did seem maybe like it was an excuse of some kind, but there is something to that angle. I mean,
they're closing them everywhere. It's Amazon built way more than they could ever have possibly needed mostly for future use, but it's one of those weird things that, Worcester was sold this again as if we were somehow special, ignoring the one that already exists up by Worcester Airport, the one that's down Route 9 off by Walmart in Westboro. They're literally everywhere. And they just don't need them. And as soon as inflation took a turn or the economy took a turn because of inflation, that was the first line to start getting cut.
Right. I just hope they're getting fucking. Well, I mean, they're not actually. I was gonna say like property taxes, but they're not because they all cut TIFs. So
that
right?
and usually companies this size they don't own the property themselves. They
Right.
own it through a holding company, so then they're able to use the losses for the property as a tax deduction.
Right. So cool.
Smart.
I guess I just hope that it falls down. Is my only. Hopefully, they crash a police drone into it by accident. So yeah.
Did you guys see they're closing Johnson Tunnel for the summer?
I just got that email. Yeah.
What are we using it for?
DPW is closing it to repair it or something.
Oh, okay.
So there was something last year or the year before about the Vogue building. They want to develop part of that, but they can't because of the tunnel in some way. So there's something that needs to happen there. There's work that needs to be done there in general until I think, but also if they're hoping to develop above or like get that building sold or rented out, then they need to do some work there. And I guess they're pulling down all the tile on it too, which I imagine has something to do with whatever's going to go on up above. So it'll be cool. I was hoping to do burnouts down there, but once again, I'm stymied in my efforts to do cool shit.
We're never getting 1999 back, man.
Man, you remember, like, do you just like remember summer nationals, just like
the summer nationals, even like in the summer, like cruising downtown was a thing.
Right.
Like just cars, just like driving around and being dumb. Now they're driving around and being dumb, but like without even trying to be dumb. They're
Right.
just
just TikToking while they're driving. Yeah, it's just another.
All right. How do I sound?
Oh,
amazing.
Pretty
Wow.
good. Yeah.
I went through my roommate's room and I found the microphone in the backpack. So we are good to go.
Tried to hide it on you.
So where are we? So before we decide to start this power hour, where are we at with City Council? Can we flash back there one more time?
Sure.
It looked like they had cleared.
Recess.
They had cleared the room.
Okay, so
for
maybe
now,
we should.
Maybe it is going to start. Oh, there are people back in there now. They went out for recess, and then they have to get a snack, I guess, and then they'll.
Well, then it's nap time, right?
They're probably doing a 15-minute recess before they start the council meeting.
Yeah,
unfortunately. So maybe we should stay in here for the council meeting instead of doing the more fun thing. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you want me to present this link that you shared?
No, I'm saving that for the Power Hour program.
Understood.
That's going to be the start of my opening monologue about lady uncles and the power of lady uncles in Worcester. We need to really stress that point in a format where it's going to stick, not in the middle of a long stream, but to start a Power Hour. Before that, though, I guess I don't think it's going to be a long recess, but we should talk about what they're actually going to be doing tonight. And it seems like they're just going to be finishing up the city council agenda from last week, which is mostly just council orders. Attell has an order on about the state of the lakes, which I don't really know anything about. 2 has an interesting order on about drone usage, and that will be interesting to hear if anything comes of that. Attell has traffic calming measures on Man Street, which if Josh Lyford was here, he would have a lot to say about that because he routinely goes out on Man Street and shakes his fist at people driving like 80 miles an hour. Conservation restriction in Elm Park, yada yada.
Sorry to interrupt, but it reminded me of a post I saw on one of the Worcester groups today. Somebody just wrote, I'm at work, I'm not in town right now, but apparently there's a man with a gun that has a puppy in a cage and is trying to sell it at Elm Park right now. Does anybody know?
Dude, that's so sick.
I would go, if I was there, I would go rescue the dog. Like, I think the gun might be an issue on that front. It sounds like.
I'd say
given the puppy or the dog,
given the overall situation with guns in the country, just don't try to do anything. Don't go to a public place, any sort of public place, ever. So yeah, don't try to do that. He's gonna shoot you if you try to take the dog, and it'll be fine.
I mean, I guess pay him for the dog if you.
yeah.
Depending on what he's asking.
Don't do anything. Don't be a cheerleader in Texas. What was that? That was the most recent one, right? Like a group of cheerleaders got shot. It's hard to keep track of them these days. There's like
a guy at Sonic got shot with an AR for telling a 12-year-old shot a Sonic worker somewhere in the country.
That's great.
Yeah, for telling his friend not to piss in their parking lot. The kid fucking shot him 20 times, so it's just a totally normal. Like,
it's fine.
Time.
Yeah.
We're having such a good time.
Yeah,
and just time to care.
Just remember, guys, guns don't kill people.
Right. 12-year-olds kill people.
12-year-olds kill people. Little boys kill people.
Yes.
While selling their dogs in Elm Park. Stay the fuck away.
Just whatever.
Healthy society, nothing wrong, totally normal.
Nothing is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, so I imagine this council meeting will be relatively short, as it's just, by my count, anywhere from 10 to 15 orders that aren't of any sort of pressing concern. And, maybe there'll be some public comment or something, but I don't really see anything being too dramatic with this. Generally, where we're at right now is budget season, where a lot of these meetings are just going to be very, very dry, droll budget reviews by a city council that's really not interested in having any real say over the city manager's budget. When it's the cops' turn, it'll just be like, thank you for your service. And no one's going to say anything. There could be an attack helicopter in the budget. They'd be like, that's totally fine. Whatever. And yeah, so that's how this is going to go until about mid-June when the budget gets approved. It'll probably get approved without any significant revisions. I haven't heard of anybody being too up in arms about any of the line items. Per the city council's rules, all they can do is veto specific line items. So they can't be like, they can't say something like, wow, way too much money for cops, not enough for teachers. That's not something they could do easily. They'd have to do it by vetoing a fuck ton of line items. They can't just be like, go back and rewrite the budget. I mean, I guess they could, in a sense, be like, we're going to veto everything unless you do this, but that's not how they operate. They mostly just ask the city employees general questions that don't matter and then don't do anything about the budget. This is basically the way that it goes.
And that's how we end up with Eric being able to go on the radio and tell everyone he's never heard anyone ask for more money for the teachers or education in general.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly, because that's just not something they're interested in doing. They don't want to the city council doesn't want to make decisions like that.
Right.
They only just want to kind of like launder the city manager's decisions, which is fine. I'm telling you, dude, we can go to strong mayor. It's going to work the exact same way. It's just,
right.
It's just the people. It is literally just the people involved. Doesn't
the
matter.
I was thinking about this today because the only advantage for us that strong mayor gets is it's one less step between us and changing whoever's making the bad decisions.
Right. Instead of electing a city council that undemocratically pulls from their own sort of like cultural ranks to have a city manager, which is what they've been doing for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
We would get to vote on the city manager essentially, which is
every 4 years.
Is better. Was that? I don't know.
Would it be every 4?
You'd be changing the charter, which would make you, able to change.
Yeah.
Terms.
But technically, it probably the simplest thing it would be if it just stayed the same election cycle. Just losing the city manager and putting his office under the mayor, and maybe separating the mayor out from city council. He would no longer be a not large councilor.
I actually don't know the specifics of how that would work, but it would be the mayor is effectively the city manager, chief executive of the city, and then the rest of the city council would be what the city council is now.
Yeah.
And Mayor Joe Petty would almost certainly not be the mayor in that situation. It would be like Ed Augustus would have to run for mayor.
Right.
Eric Batista would have to run for mayor. And it's possible that it could work out different. I mean, Mayor Wu in Boston doesn't become mayor under the planning style of government. She doesn't have that sort of power in this system we do, but it's also just a different electorate. So I don't really know. And I don't think that we're ever going to get there. I mean, people talk about charter change once every 2 years, and then it just never goes anywhere.
Right.
And I don't see this being any different.
No.
But like a good city council could make Eric Batista's life fucking miserable if they wanted to. So that's good. They really could do a lot if there was a majority.
Yeah.
And they used it well, but right now it's just nothing changes, nothing gets better.
Yeah.
Tough time to care. So where are we at? Are we back in the meeting now, or are they still in recess?
There's nobody in the chamber.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think? Should we just do the power hour now, and if we get cut off, we just pick it back up later?
Yeah, I mean we can always do that. That's a perfectly cromulent option, right?
Yeah, if we're like, oh, the city council is really doing something right now, we can just cut it off and be like, we'll finish this conversation later, and then have to do a little bit of editing work as opposed to no editing work.
Travis, can you bring back the screen though from city? I would just like everyone to take note and take to heart the idea that these fucking adults get a longer recess than any elementary school children in the city of Worcester.
Wow, that's a good point.
Just find that amazing that their recess where they're at least twice as long right now.
Well, I'm sorry, the dog is sleeping downstairs on the couch right now. I will not drag him up here. He's not allowed upstairs yet. We're still integrating him in the cat, trying to work that out. So
that's always messy.
They each took a floor, and we're working our way through it. It's getting better every day.
I'm doing that in June. That doesn't sound fun.
They're both pretty good. It's just there's a big size discrepancy. It's an issue that we're really running into now. So someone's gentle play is a possible death sentence for somebody else. So Mo, you do have feelings. Your feelings are valid, and your feelings mean a lot to me. The dog's name is Roman. We changed its name to Roman because it could not be named Jimmy. Because as I mentioned before, that's my dad's name, and if I wanted to say that name, I would talk to my dad. So we changed his name to Roman.
Epic Stratton, that email I am going to use in an upcoming article. It's pretty crazy. It's Wayne Griffin getting fully behind Jose Rivera in District 5 and saying a bunch of insane shit.
Shocker.
Yeah, exactly. Shocker. Yeah, I'm saving that for my next election injection series where I discuss all the petty minutia and drama of the election and don't bog down other newsletter posts with that kind of stuff. But yeah, you know what? Let's do it. What do you say? Let's fucking do it. Worcester Sucks Power Hour. We're going to do it now. If we get cut off by the city council, we'll come back to it later. But welcome to this program that's somehow different from the program you were just watching a second ago. And I want to start this program with a treatise of mine that I'm working on, a grad school thesis on the lady uncle and its prevalence in Worcester politics. So, Travis, if you could just go to 245 on this clip about Uncle Daycare. Yeah. And just play it from about there.
On an Uncle Hank. Farmer's giving the rabbit the vaccine so he can control his mind.
Here at our daycare, we have lady uncles too. With our lady uncles, we give them a pack of cigarettes, a robe, and a window they can look out of to keep an eye on things.
See these kids out here? Look at these kids.
They're just riding their bikes.
Yeah, from what country?
At Uncle Daycare.
All right. Stop it there. This introduces a very important concept into the Worcester political discourse. Lady uncles. Donna Colorio, lady uncle. Mo Bergman, lady uncle. Merrill Carlson, lady uncle. Kate Toomey, lady uncle. There are 4 lady uncles on the city council. These are different from aunts. Don't get it twisted. The difference between an aunt and a lady uncle is obvious, and if you know these people, it would make sense. Donna Colorio demonstrated how much of a lady uncle she is in a recent meeting about a proposed family homeless shelter. That Brian, were you at that meeting, or did you not get to that one yesterday?
I didn't get to the one yesterday. No, I couldn't go.
You were at the one a couple of weeks ago
at the church itself. Yeah.
Right. Which was psychotic and
a bloodbath.
Yeah. Right. So I have it here from the Telegram that Councilor at Large Donna Colorio showed up to this meeting about the proposed homeless shelter. It was a Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. And she made the case that people on the Burncoat Facebook page are upset about it, so it shouldn't happen. Here's what she said, direct quote. What I've read from Burncoat posts, what I've read on the Nextdoor app, what I've heard tonight, it's disturbing to me that people were not notified. All they want to do is be involved in the conversation prior to the decision being made. Colorio said the neighbors had compassion for the homeless. Quote, you're hearing compassion from the people who testified. They don't want to stop the homeless people from going into the shelter. They wanted to be made sure that the neighborhood creates a safe environment for everybody. What is she possibly talking about? Of course they want to stop people from going into this homeless shelter.
They said
they're there to stop the homeless shelter. Donna Colorio is trying to hide this obvious reason why everyone is showing up behind the rhetoric that they are, quote, made sure that the neighborhood creates a safe environment for everybody, which is so dumb. Like that is obviously not what you're saying. You're obviously lying. You want to stop the homeless shelter from going forward. And what you're basically saying is that, like, yeah, the neighbors don't want homeless people to be on the street, but they don't want them to be on, my street. They have to be somewhere else, and where is that somewhere else? It doesn't matter. But the problem of homelessness in Worcester only becomes an issue to these people, these uncles and these lady uncles, when they're directly confronted with it, when there's something that comes their way that would put it somewhat close to them,
Can I say can I address a couple things about the quote?
Sure, yeah.
Based on my experience with the Burncoat, the multiple Burncoat Facebook groups, the meeting 2 weeks ago, and speaking with these people that Donna has spoken to. One, the fact that she says they don't want to stop it is utter bullshit, because I can direct quote multiple people at that meeting saying, can we still stop this? Is there a way to stop this? Two, the idea that people just want to be consulted or before a decision is made. That's what these meetings are. And that's what the people that are trying to run the shelter were saying the entire time, is that this is us bringing it to you. You are being notified right now.
What other avenue were you expecting?
Exactly. And that was
like
my
a direct
point.
Phone call.
My point to multiple people that were like, well, I just want to be notified. And it's like, you are being notified. You're being consulted right now. This is what this is. They're not opening the shelter tomorrow. They're starting the process. This is when you find out about things and have a chance to give feedback, which you are currently using all your time to give feedback to say that you're not allowed to give feedback and you're wasting your feedback time.
Right.
And then on top of that, it's like they don't so they it's so flabbergasting to me, all of this stuff, because when somebody is sitting there telling you this is our plan that we would like to pursue, what are your thoughts on it? And then your thoughts are, why am I not allowed to have a discussion about this?
When you're being directly asked what your thoughts are.
Yeah. And to just say that you are not allowed to have an impact on the process when the process is not even started yet.
Right. But that's something that you would glom onto if you don't feel comfortable saying what you really feel out loud, right?
Well, that's the thing, and that's what it. And then when you talk long enough about it, it becomes like they're too stupid not to give glimpses or to be just open right up about it. So you get that thing of like, like, I don't want to stop this. I just want to make sure that it's clear. But then getting mad because you think that you can't stop it. like, and
Exactly.
saying, I still want time to stop this.
What level of idiot do you have to be to not realize in the process of leaving your house to go to a meeting where they're going to discuss a thing, whether you're in favor of it or you hate it or whatever the case may be, that is the participation that you're actually demanding when you're at the meeting that you left your house to go to. You have to, that's an incalculable level of moron that not to be able to recognize that I'm actually out of my house right now. I'm not yelling at my computer anymore. I'm now in front of actual human beings and they're not delivering DoorDash to my face. Like, I'm here in this space.
Also, like, how much feedback do you get on anything that happens in your neighborhood? Like, you get, like, if you just wanted to buy the church and then turn it into like you know, a fucking pit, like, I don't get any say in that. If you like it's, you know, what do you think you get to say? Like, I said it to multiple people at that meeting. I was like, if you bought the house next door to me, do I get to say I don't want to live next to you? Because I don't want to fucking live next to you. Like, do I get a say in that? No, of course you would never agree to that. So why do you get to fucking demand what happens here? Like, you don't own this city. You don't own anything besides your property. So I don't, you know.
You can't tell that to an uncle, let alone a lady uncle. No, they're not going to hear it. They're just not going to hear it. And Donna Calorio is going to keep this sort of bad faith argument alive in the annals of City Hall just by nature of her being a city councilor. Like, she's of these people. She is next door incarnate on the city council floor. You know, like, it's not going anywhere. And I mean, like, Walter Bird the other week, like, signaled his intention to make the Jose Rivera campaign all about this idea of the neighbors not being properly notified and the city manager promising not to put homeless shelters in residential neighborhoods, which was like actually something for promise, but like Walter just throwing that out there, like he kind of put his cards on the table. Like, that's what they're going to run on. They're going to whip up this sort of like uncle energy against like homeless encampments and try to make that a palatable run for a district race.
The amount of people, there's a specific post, a guy named Peter Patz in the Burncoat group made a post about this shelter and the idea of shelters in residential neighborhoods in general. And his line was, this belongs on King Street or Queen Street. It doesn't belong here. And my question to him was, well, why does it not belong here, but it belongs down there? Why is it okay for it to be there, but it's not okay for it to be up here?
Ding, ding, ding,
legitimately, he answered me. He said, because those places are already fucked up.
Yeah. Well, you guys have honed in on two things that they're hitting me in a maybe a different way than you're intending them to, but I think they're salient. That, you know, if you've asked somebody or you've ever heard somebody really sum up New England's unique style of racism or classism, it always comes down to the idea that I don't mind if my boss is black, I just don't want to live next door to him. Right. Like that really is the best way to drum down the really perverse style of both racism and classism that we tend to see in New England that just goes unsaid. The other part, and I shared it in the private chat, but Travis, if you share with the group, I think it would be meaningful. There was an article that The Atlantic published back in 2021 when you started hearing about, I think it was really when the term Karen started coming into like major usage. And it was really honing in on the history of where American consumers became a bunch of entitled, awful human beings. And it walks back to the late 1800s, really, with the invention of the department store. And we created this false idea where the middle class really came out of nowhere, right? Like we just kind of invented a term that no other civilization had ever used.
Right.
As like, but the trick when it came to retailers was, how are we going to convince these people to buy shit that they just don't need in their life? And that's where the whole concept of service industry came from. And we've spent over a century now training the American middle class on the idea that you are special. And the only thing we ask for you in exchange for reaffirming how special you are is that you give us all of your money for crap that you don't need. And this author did a great job in this article of really just honing in on the idea that we have become a culture that is just completely devoid or completely lacks the ability to recognize how demanding and insufferable that we've become. And it's it's just turned into this idea that whatever nonsense is in the average individual American's head, they believe that everybody shares that nonsense. And it's only, unfortunately, at these meetings, and you hit it on the park when you hone in on Donna talking about Nextdoor and Facebook. Unfortunately, we now have a very vocal segment of the population that believes that like real discourse is taking place on Facebook, like or Nextdoor, and that's all that matters. And it's amazing that like I don't know if it's intentional or not, but a lot of these cats don't seem to care or realize that there's 225,000 people in the city. The overwhelming majority of them have shit to do. They don't have time to go to a meeting. They're working 2 or 3 jobs, like, and they're not like worried that the sky is going to fall because some formerly unhoused people now have a temporary place to call home while they try and sort their shit out. It's really just the same folks that we use labels like Karen for that will come to these public meetings and lose their minds and accomplish nothing in the process.
Right. And that's where this sort of like this line about, not being properly notified sort of comes out of that hive mind. And it doesn't matter until it comes out of that hive mind that doesn't make any sense. That, zoning board of appeals meetings, all the property butters are actually notified in writing, and it is a public forum to express how you feel about something, and that this is the process. It doesn't matter because this weird hive mind of like Facebook townies and Nextdoor moms get to kind of decide on like what the grievance is before it enters the public sphere. And they all just kind of coalesce around something that sounds okay because they're like ambient anger at just like poor people isn't like they don't feel comfortable saying it out loud, which is like the Massachusetts story. You have to find a different way to say it out loud. Doesn't mean you can't feel it,
Yeah. Oh, this 4-way intersection is unsafe. We can't possibly have a shelter here. But those kids can be wherever the fuck they end up on the street. Like those kids can be thrown into DCF, which is what will happen essentially is they'll get thrown in the system. But I'm morally right because I'm looking out for the children because we need a stop sign. Well, it's like, well, then call Donna Calorio and get a fucking stop sign put up. Like,
that's a lot easier. It's a lot easier. And it kind of goes back to that Karen thing where if you like own a single family home, you are like culturally like entitled to some sort of like remove from society. The fact that you're a homeowner removes you of having to deal with the issue that a King Street or like a Lower Chandler, like you said, has to deal with. That's more important than the issue itself. Is that the single family homeowner never has to directly confront it.
Right, and that's what they want. And this idea, like I was saying, when you went to look for the microphone, we were talking about it a little bit, like this idea that you get to be above it, like literally up here on the hill, like you get to be above the issue and it can't touch you, but you still get to live in the city and say that you're a Worcester person, and but be a weird like Oxford type of person. Like
you get to go to these ZBA meetings, these neighborhood meetings about a 6-family homeless shelter in a church. And act like an absolute psycho and have like the blessing and the backing of like all of your weird neighbor friends, like that you're doing something righteous and good. And that's so fucked up. Yeah.
And it's, the thing is, it's not even a plurality of this neighborhood in a lot of ways that is like that. It is legitimately less than a dozen people that are like that or are vocally like that, and every time it comes up it gets shut down and shot down pretty heartily, I must say, like impressively, at least online. And even at that meeting there was a lot of people there that were speaking up for the good guys and were passionately speaking on behalf of it, and that made me very happy to see. But the problem is none of those people have been able to bend the ear of Donna Calorio, and none of those people can get through to Sean Rose, who was at the meeting but is never gonna pick a side in it. Like,
you're right.
He said a way that matters. He said it to me outside beforehand. He's like, "Oh, great! All these people think that I'm like part of this," and I'm like, and I wanted to be like, "Yeah, you should be part of it." That's a problem. But
what are you? You're embarrassed to like be in charge of the city? Like, what are you talking about?
Dude, like, yeah, step up. Donna Calorio's stepping up for her side, as vulgar as that is, and for as few people, as little people as she actually represents in this matter, she's stepping up. She showed up for them, and they got what they wanted. 7 people got what they wanted.
Exactly.
The rest of our wishes, because they have somebody that will, like,
and they got the narrative. I mean, this Telegram article that I was writing from, or reading from rather, was the framing of this was, zoning board of appeals delays vote on homeless shelter because of resident uproar.
Right.
And the only thing that's getting quoted in that are these fucking 12 uncles and lady uncles. Right. And like, because everyone else has shit to do and no one else could be bothered to care about this besides like the most absolutely psychotic people in the neighborhood.
And most people actively go out of their way to avoid lunatics, right? I mean, that's something that is completely lost from our local political discourse, is like your neighbors up there, Brian, like they've put up with this bullshit on the Little League field. They've put up with this bullshit at youth soccer. Like, they don't have any extra time in their day to go to a small room where they're trapped with a bunch of completely insane people and listen to them rant for hours. And it's easier just to say, okay, fuck it, I don't care. Which is unfortunately, like, it's just as dismissive, and it doesn't help the cause overall, and it gives an outsized voice to these people. But you really can't fault the average person for just not wanting to be drowned out by insanity.
No, why do you want to do it, dude? It's stressful. It's so fucking stressful to sit in a room like that and try and be a bulwark against it. Like we literally got verbally assaulted for doing it, and it wasn't.
I would rather try and save a puppy from a guy with a gun at Elm Park. Like, that sounds like a much better time than going to any of these meetings.
Much more upside for sure, because then no matter what you do, like, they were at the ZBA meeting last night, there were plenty of people speaking in favor of this, but did any of them get quoted in the Telegram? Did any of them get quoted in the coverage? No,
not to the same extent, because Donna Calorio got to like define, like, by nature of her being an elected official, she gets like top of the totem pole treatment.
And she gets to do that stuff because she's a fucking 3rd generation millionaire who's got nothing else to do but fuck with poor people. Like, she doesn't have anywhere to be. She doesn't have a job to be at. She just gets to sit around and be rich and miserable. And when somebody calls her and says, like, oh, we need to shut this down, she goes, okay, great, yeah, I do have concerns. Like, let me check out Nextdoor to find my talking points. Like,
yeah, exactly. And she's just like, these are my constituents. Like, Donna Calorio always, if you pay careful attention, she always talks about my constituents.
Right.
Where, like, an at-large city councilor, your constituents are everyone that lives in the city.
Right.
But the rhetorical conceit of saying my constituents is that she is just the avatar and the representative of these uncles and lady uncles, these fucking weirdos that have no political project, but they just don't want to be where they are. And it's just atmospheric grievances being expressed in a way that they're not going to lose their job if they say them out loud. But like, really, I mean, if somebody like came out of the woodwork as a city council candidate and was like, yeah, we should put like a yellow star on all the homeless people, and like, if we see them walking around, we should just put them in this camp, they'd be like, fuck yeah. It really is like sort of a fascistic or fascist.
There was people at this meeting saying that letting people live in the church was going to make rats come into the neighborhood. What the fuck does that mean?
Dude, that's
what
so
does that
crazy.
mean? There are already people in the church. What the fuck do you mean by that?
And just associating them with vermin
and getting applause for it. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, yes,
dude, that's so crazy.
Like,
yeah. I actually got a text earlier, and this is kind of a dark subject, so we don't have to linger on this too long, but from one of my unhoused activists that I keep in touch with on this stuff, and they just texted me and went, Worcester is straight up fascist. Like, these neighborhood groups are actually fascist. Like, the opposition of these homeless shelters, like there is a fascist project in Worcester. And I'm saying, that fascist project is these uncles and these lady uncles, and they don't actually want power. They just want to, bitch and moan about stuff. But somebody could use that energy if they wanted to. It's there. It's always been there. It's not going to get any better.
Right.
Well,
that's what all people that are like supportive of fascists want. They don't want power themselves. They want someone that will take the hit for them so that they do the fucked up shit that they are afraid to say they want to do.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And it can be small scale in a small city like this, or it can be writ large. But that's what it comes down to, is they're hoping for somebody to come in and say, we should get rid of all these people because then everything will be great in the city.
Yeah.
Like,
honestly, not giving him any ideas, but Jose Rivera is a guy that's primed to do that. And if he just did it, like, he would get so much support in Worcester. If he just came right out and said the quiet part out loud, people would rally behind that like crazy.
Right.
And it would be scary. So I hope he doesn't, but I'm just saying that, like, there's a powder keg here that we have to be really careful about, because like this is like just like in the nation in general, especially with the Jordan Neely thing we saw, like, people are going to rally against dehumanizing unhoused people really hard if they're given the opportunity.
Or they're going to let somebody do it and not say a word about it.
Yeah. They just need somebody to be brave enough in their mind to say it. Right.
Like,
and
if you can be a train car full of people sitting around and watching somebody get choked out for 15 minutes, then you don't need to commit to the rhetoric. You can just sit there while it happens.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
And
that sort of complacency we see all the time. I mean, like, not to really fucking drag Sean Rose's name through the mud, but that's kind of exactly what he was saying.
It is.
When he said that, he was like, I don't want to have to deal with this.
He was just pissed that it was happening. He was pissed that he had to deal with it. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the people who actually want to, like, make the situation better and help are maligned as being like some sort of like crazy, like, Antifa lunatic.
Dude, the vitriol that the fucking Friendly House is getting over this, like, this is a Friendly House like thing. This is the Friendly House. And like, when the woman that runs Friendly House was there to present the plan, as her part of the plan, and the first thing she did was like, who here knows about the Friendly House? And everyone in the room raised their hand. And she's like, oh, y'all play basketball, huh? And everyone laughed. And then she was like, yeah, we do this a lot all over Worcester, and it's been really successful. And then people start yelling at her. Like, it's the crazy fucking Friendly House, dude. Like,
yeah. Like, that's your enemy.
It's it's one of the few good things we have in the city. Like,
how do you take a step back and not think like, oh, that's my enemy. Yeah. I'm the bad guy.
Are we the baddies? Yeah.
Yeah. Are we the baddies? You know what I mean? Before we keep going, Travis, you want to check and see where we are with City Council?
They're definitely still on recess, and
they're still on recess,
and they have the same budget people sitting at the table. So I think they're going to continue the budget meeting.
All right.
Meeting.
Sweet.
Part of what really upsets me too with the conversations surrounding the unhoused, and I know I've mentioned this in shows in the past, is that we tend to talk about these issues like they're unique to Worcester. And I threw it again in the private chat there. Travis, you don't have to share it, but if you want to, I just found it hilarious. Like, Hawaii is trying to come up with a plan to deal with the unhoused population currently, and their situation is obviously a little bit different because they're a fucking island. They can't just blame it on Holden for not having enough shelter space or whatnot, right? Like, you can't just dump people in the ocean. So they're getting ready to put people on charter planes and fly them back to the mainland. And in that video, in that clip, at the 21-second mark, there was this wicked salty dude from Dorchester. And it said, like, the title was Kevin McCann, former Boston resident, currently unhoused in Honolulu. And his whole take was like, fuck this noise. I love it here. I'm not going back to that dump.
Yeah.
But
I'm
it was
not going back.
I couldn't think watching this. Hold on.
Yeah. It's really funny. Well, I don't know, but it's funny actually. Yeah. Whatever.
No one wants to be homeless or without a job, without a place to go every day, without a future. I mean, that's not paradise. That's torture.
The men, both from Boston, met at the Punavai Rest Stop Homeless Hygiene Center and have been inseparable ever since.
It's the other guy.
But at least one of them can't wait to go back home.
Everybody needs to have help. Absolutely. If you can help anybody here get back home, people are suffering here.
Hawaii leaders are trying to get more homeless people back to where they came from, proposing to spend $100,000 over the next year to send them back to the mainland.
It saves the state millions of dollars in the finite amount and resources we have for our local homeless. We're getting them back to their family, their support group, where the homeless can get back on their feet.
Since 2015, the Institute for Human Services has sent more than 600 homeless people to the mainland, with about 4% ending up returning to the islands. The agency currently sends about 100 people home each year, but not everyone wants to go.
There we go.
This is going to be my home. I'm going to stay in Hawaii. I have no wants to go back to Boston. I don't like the cold weather in the winter. Can't push a wheelchair around in the snow too good. I'll be here until the day I die.
But for those who do,
yeah, exactly. It's like, why would you want to come back here? You know,
but it's just the idea too that I feel like there is something that's missing, and I don't know if it's intentional or not. Every state is dealing with massive unhoused populations. Nobody seems to have really good ideas what to do in the long term, and I think that's fair because it's a super complicated issue. And I mean, even when we're talking about it, we have a tendency, I think, to like put people into buckets and assume that there's a one size fits all solution for everybody. Some cats want to be left alone, right? And like just just write their manifesto in the woods.
Right.
So it's a super complicated issue, but again, it's just there's something in Worcester where I can't help but think intentionally we treat it like it's unique to us, and that part really grosses me out because it's another. There's got to be better ideas than just shutting down encampments nationally, which is all we're doing, and we are othering a large swath of the American population at this point.
Right. And they get away with it partially because of that thing where it's like most people aren't connected to real issues, to politics. They don't have real like skin in the game in Worcester. And so you can say like, oh, this is a unique Worcester problem, and people will just believe it because it's convenient for them to be like, well, this is a Worcester problem that we need to be like other places.
Right.
These ghouls can use their like their constituents to their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I wrote about that last week, that like this bit of rhetoric that you'll hear most of the old guard of the city council use about how like the towns are sending their unhoused people to Worcester, right? Yeah. Like, and this is like, it's like it accomplishes two things. It's like, woe is me, the big city. We're the ones made to deal with everyone's problem. And it also, like the underlying rhetoric there is that, we can't try too hard to be humane.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Otherwise we're going to attract more. Right. Yeah.
Shaun Rose was using that rhetoric during that meeting. He was asking questions about like, oh, well, are they actually from Worcester or are they from other places?
Right. And the Central Massachusetts Housing Alliance has data like showing that it's not the situation where everyone in Worcester County is coming to Worcester to be unhoused. It's like it's at most half, and like by population, Worcester is the biggest city in the county. So
we're the county seat. Like services are here. Sorry, that's what we get for being a city. Like,
and unless your family were a bunch of farmers, everybody in Worcester County is one generation removed from being a Worcester person, right? Or if you're a recent immigrant, right? Like it's nobody's from Auburn, right? You're all from Maine South.
Right.
You just packed up and left in the 70s when those people started coming, right? It's so it makes sense that more people would be coming into the city because there is usually, for most people in the area, there is some connection to family in this area, which is exactly the point that that guy from Boston was getting at. Like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you would want to be close to something familiar and familial if you're struggling.
Right. But, as soon as you hear somebody use that sort of rhetoric, Sarai Rivera said it, Mo Bergman said it, none of the housing activists or experts said anything like that, because I know it's not true. But it's like a reinforcing myth that helps them support the shitty position on this. Where if they all say, you know, oh, it's, you know, the real problem is the town's not stepping up, and if everyone says it, then they don't need to support data for that or like have an argument. But in saying that, they get to absolve themselves from having to try any harder or do anything else, because they can just scapegoat the towns for their scapegoat, I guess. Right. And that's kind of what the city council has done for forever.
Isn't it weird how much of the city council is dedicated to not doing anything? Like, like who will go out of their way to make sure they don't have to take action? Like, what's the point of securing your reelection over and over again if you're not going to use it at all?
Well, you get to make speeches.
Sure. Yeah, but you could also, you know, go to fucking Toastmasters. Like,
right.
You know,
but if you go to Toastmasters, there's not the person that's actually in charge of the city and who can also give you a DUI on your way home from the Boynton.
Right.
That won't give you a DUI if you give them everything they want every year.
I keep forgetting about corruption. I'm so naive.
Well, yeah, there's that, but it's also a big part of, if your performance review for your job is votes, you know, talking to voters is really what matters, right? It's like, I mean, on some level, we have to respect that if there's a real solution to the large amounts of unhoused folks nationwide, it becomes a federal problem, right? Like, I remember when I was a kid and you started hearing, like, Congress took great pride in the fact that it ended childhood hunger, right? Like, we didn't have hungry kids in America anymore, right? Because it was, you're not going to fix that on a local level. It requires a ton of money. Yeah. When we had a opioid crisis, and it was this time around impacting white middle class folks instead of black dudes coming back from Vietnam, suddenly the federal government had like unlimited dollars to spend on the opioid crisis. There isn't, or we haven't really tapped into yet, a way to link the unhoused population to impacting negatively somebody's voter turnout. And I feel like that's the trick. Like, you're not going to have a real financial investment in bettering the lives of anyone if it isn't going to make somebody more successful as a candidate.
Yeah, and I guess that's where we come in. By calling all of those people uncles and lady uncles and fascist nightmares. And, you know, you really actually do have to shame people for supporting these sorts of positions that dehumanize people and make the problem worse. I mean, like, if our city council is going to be a collection of these fucking ghouls, then we need to at least frame that correctly, that they are fucking ghouls, and don't just like let them hide behind these little talking points they've come up with over the past 30 fucking years to explain why they don't do anything about it, why it's not their job, and it's not their fucking fault, you know? Like, they need to be called out on this bullshit, you know? And I think that a lot of the time, just like media theory, a local newspaper has no incentive to call out that kind of bullshit.
Right.
You know, absolutely no incentive at all, because they are all operating from the same, you know, trite as it is, stupid as it is after that article, but they're inner circle, right? You can't really blow up somebody's spot like that. You cannot call out somebody for being a ghoul who intentionally dehumanizes people to absolve themselves of actually addressing a humanitarian situation that they have the power to address. Like, a local newspaper has no incentive to do that, because they're of the same class of people that could be called out. Right. So, like, I mean, like, really, there is an inversion here with the internet where these people can be called out for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, just on a general sort of overarching, like, media theory sort of thing, like, cyberbullying the mayor is actually like a praxis, you know, it's as stupid as it sounds to say that. It's like, this is a new thing. Well, this is something that's never been able to break through, you know?
Right. And I think it is because of the media landscape that is the truth. You know, if you talk to a traditional like print journalist, like, they're going to have issues with this style, obviously, you know, like, you know, Tim Connolly's been on my mind a lot lately. like an incredible journalist, incredible, like, you know, old school, like, newspaper reporter, and yeah, pretty openly, like, you know, hesitant about our way of doing things, which I respect, because where he came from, the time that he came from, that style of thing, like, it wasn't necessary, because you had a much wider reach. You know, just covering things was enough to, like, get you know, get outcomes, or get, you know, or get momentum going.
But it's also like the newspaper man's monopoly on the discourse at that time didn't allow for that sort of opinion, because there was an arbiter in the institution of the newspaper that controlled public discourse entirely. And you know, the Telegram still tries to do that, doesn't do as good a job anymore, and just
they don't have the reach anymore, and there's literal monopolies that make it so that no one would trust it anyways. So
right
you know, like, yeah, back then there was a lot more democratization of even that discourse control. Like, there was, you know, the media controlled the narrative always, but the media was much more democratized back then. Now it's not, and they don't control the narrative anymore, and so there's no pulpit. This is the pulpit now, because that's the only way to reach anybody, you know?
Well, and it's not to take anything away from online bullying of elected officials, which I 100% support, but it's also important to acknowledge too. I mean, this is the thing that I love about Tu and Attell. When they talk about these issues, they are decidedly using language like our community members, our fellow residents, our fellow citizens. Our Tu often says our people. There are folks on this council and in local government who are actively engaged with trying to humanize the very people that are consistently being dehumanized. And I think it's important to hone in on that. It's always easy to poke the stupid shit, and we should be always doing that, but not glossing over the fact there are decent human beings among us too.
Right.
And we just need more of them.
Yeah.
That's the new model. And like, you're right that you can even see it on the level of the lexicon, and like the words that Tu and Attell choose to use, and their framing of it. It's just markedly different, and they're coming at it from an entirely new place, as far as I've seen, for any city councilor in Worcester. And like, you know, a city council with 11 Tus and Attells, like, is, I don't know if we got much of a show anymore. You know, I'd happily hang it up. You know, I would happily just be like, okay, we did it, you know, and hang it up. But like, you're right that we should spend more time highlighting the ways that they're different. Because if you're not paying very close attention, you don't see that. But like, if you pay close attention all the time, it's very obvious.
And it's powerful too. I mean, I will be the first to admit that. I mean, there are certain times when Tu and Attell do that, you hear certain words, and it does force you to remember that you're talking about people. You're not talking about they're not talking points. They're not political issues. They're human beings that we have it's very easy to be dismissive of.
Right.
Yeah. And like, you know, you look at like Tu has been getting involved with like the eviction, like anti-eviction task force lately. And can you imagine 10 years ago a city councilor
exactly
openly confronting these issues, openly confronting the police on like online, like where everyone can see, and bring not only doing that not in the chambers, but bringing that into the chambers as well. Like, it is different. You're absolutely right. It's very different, and it's a different way of approaching being a city councilor. And you know,
I think there's more people than ever that are responsive to that and like that. But it is also something that's not going to get remarked upon in the majority of the local press. This isn't something that the sort of the mechanics of local journalism is equipped to cover. You couldn't write an article in the Telegram and Gazette saying, I like that Tu talks differently about people than older city councilors.
Right.
You know, like they would just be like, what is this? You know,
Right.
They wouldn't run it. You couldn't get that through. But that is actually like a really salient, important point about just like a general cultural difference and a different way of looking at what city council could be that deserves proper framing. And like, it shouldn't be up to them to do it themselves. Right. It's like there needs to be sort of I don't know, alternative media that is doing that. And I hope we're doing that, trying to, but yeah, it's like you really could smash completely through the calcified political culture of Worcester that has kept it mediocre for decades by literally just speaking differently. You know, like it really is that important. Like the rhetoric and the lexicon that's like sort of calcified around this culture around City Hall is just like all of them are just finding ways to abdicate responsibility while still giving speeches. And like the fucking city manager is doing the same thing. He knows he doesn't have he can't do shit about the police union, you know. Right. Like he's just, his whole thing is just like demonstrating that he has authority and like a claim to these things, but like the whole thing is warped from what it should be. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I think it's an important point that when you hear somebody speaking in a way that reminds you that there are human beings' lives at stake in an arena where that usually doesn't happen, that's kind of a profound thing that deserves to be remarked on.
Well, you know, and I think it's a valid way to look at changes in journalism overall. I know there are still plenty of debates within your universe, Bill, as to how a journalist should define themselves based on their writing, and it should be devoid of any sort of emotion or taking a stance or what have you. But that obviously becomes problematic when you are discussing actual humans, and more often than not, you have people showing exactly who they are by not willing to cross that line and just point out that this is bullshit. Like we are just abusing other human beings through the process of Robert's Rules of Order, and that's not okay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's something that I've tried to do very consciously with my newsletter, and like there is like a whole lot to be said about how both sidesing things it like enacts a rightward drift, where like the defensible position given equal weight against a less defensible position favors the less defensible position in the long run. And if you don't have the power to do something besides that, like if I didn't have the power to go to the homeless camp eviction behind Walmart and be like, this is fucked up and they're lying, and publish that, right? I would have never been able to publish that at the Telegram or at Worcester Magazine even, ever. They would have been like, we'll get the city's position, and the city would have said, we're not lying, that's what happened, and that's the end of the story. It never gets published. So like I don't know, it's just like there's a big long sort of tradition of obscuring these issues and just like the rhetoric of City Hall and in local media that you know, people like Tu and Attell are doing so much work that's never going to get fully recognized and unraveling. And it unravels slowly at first, I would say, and then all at once. And it'd be really nice to see it unravel all at once in November. You know what I mean?
To that end, I mean, I remember years ago, it's probably going on 20 years now. I remember going up to a Tea Party meeting in Holden. I think it was either Holden or Paxton. Chris Nicola was their guest speaker. He was the former editor of the Worcester Telegram Executive, editor-in-chief. And he was presenting to a captive audience of Worcester County Tea Party members as to how to get their help them get their message out. And he said, I've got it on video somewhere, that was beautiful. Awesome. He said to a group of Tea Party members, like, look, like I haven't seen another member of our editorial board in years. I'm the only one that's there. I make all the decisions. So you just need to push your ideas, and they're going to get printed because I'm the guy making the decision what gets printed. So to your point, Bill, I mean, it's like even internally, they're well aware as to the direction that you can push right-wing talking points, because at that time, they still were the paper of record. They were the only voice in town. Chris tended to side with their political leanings and had no problem saying in a public forum, like, yeah, just give me your shit. I'll be happy to put it out there because there's no one left to stop me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's, you know,
that's journalism.
That's journalism. That's how we got from 2014 to 2019 of Ed Augustus pursuing a wantonly reckless gentrification policy and being widely celebrated for it. And no one was even allowed to broker the idea of there being an affordable housing issue coming down the pike until Augustus himself did it in 2019. After he tied the city to the proverbial railroad tracks, right? Then he got to say, "Oh, we should do something about affordable housing. Let's try to fix up some triple deckers. All right, you guys want an affordable housing trust fund? You know, after you let the cat out of the bag, you know."
Right.
Yeah. So where are we at for time? Should we go back to the council meeting, or
they're still on finance? Wow.
No, we're still on finance. Wow.
Oh, boy.
Who remembers when we started this power hour?
Around 1 hour. I'm sorry, around 40 minutes in. So we hit about an hour.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that's a good time. That's a good time to end it. This is a fun discussion. Before we end it, or I don't even know where we should or could end it, but it didn't go where I imagined it to. But I think that we stumbled on some really good sort of overall contextual ways of thinking about things at the end there. That like the way that the city talks about the unhoused is symptomatic of the way that the city has been sort of unchallenged and being ghoulish for forever. And the only way to start getting somewhere different is to talk about it different and to actually challenge these fucking ghouls that have had the city's ear and that yell at Bryan that they're being liberal with a mask on.
This is the thing about it though. They think that I won't fucking yell back. And they think that if they scream at you that you're a liberal from across the street, that you'll shut up and give them their way. They don't know what how much I will yell back.
Roasting is what I do.
Yeah, they do not know how much I do not care what they think, and I'm not afraid of them.
Isn't your standard response Google me, bitch?
Google me, bitch. Yeah. You want to know what the fuck I'll do? But that's the thing. I do think that like so often it's there's a part of them that knows how much of a grind it is to deal with them. In their entire lives, they've come to realize that if they just yell louder and complain more, then people either decide to stop dealing with them or give them what they want, or they'll find the audience of the person that agrees with them. And they legitimately think that they outnumber us, and they don't. They don't even come close to outnumbering us. And so there is part of it where it's like we do have to engage in uncomfortable ways and in annoying ways. And obviously, in a local election, the most important thing is to vote, because there's so few people that actually vote. And most of these fucking weirdos don't vote, so we could make a huge difference. Absolutely.
And we have for 2 elections now.
Exactly. And so we continue that, but also like checking them when they start this shit. When they start to try and put up blocks on like helping people in your neighborhood, wherever it's happening, you have to check them on it. And if they want to get loud with you, fucking get loud back. Like, you're not going to score any points by being more civil at this point. Like, we're only going to score points by outnumbering them, and we do, and we just need to be talking about it.
Calls for civility do nothing but reinforce the right to a claim to the narrative.
Exactly.
Because like when you call for civility, all you're saying is I'm a more reasonable person than this crank, and I'm removing myself from this conversation. And it's like, okay, so who wins? Who gets the telegram write-up? Who gets the narrative? It's the fucking crank that gets the narrative.
Exactly. And they also get the status quo, which is what they want. And being quiet just keeps the status quo.
You know what would be really effective? What a really good thing to do, and this isn't my idea per se. I'm just reminded of a text that I got from, I got a text from Mattel being like, we should have 15 people at every one of these weird ass meetings to just drown out the 15 uncles and lady uncles and have like an anti-uncle action team that understands where the uncles are going to go in the discourse and
I have a pitch on Tifa.
Antifa. That's real good. I like that. Yeah. You haven't. We need the aunties to come out and balance out the uncles, restore balance to the force, equilibrium in the universe. But there is something to be said about that idea that, like, because the way that media has worked historically, local media lends the crank the power of being a crank and shifting the narrative rightward. If you just have an anti-crank like balancing act everywhere the crank goes, you neuter the crank. Like all the crank can do is be a crank. So if Eric Batista doesn't have to maybe not promise that he won't put any homeless shelters in residential neighborhoods because the cranks are yelling at him, then like slowly progress starts to drift in the other direction because the cranks aren't the loud ones.
We have to get more annoying.
Is what we're saying. We got to get more annoying. And I am happy, as one of the most annoying guys I've ever met in my life, I am happy to lead the charge. Yeah. In being like the most annoying.
Yeah, I annoy myself most of the time. I'm happy to, but it's a struggle because it's hard to do all these things. Like, again, we don't have the advantage. We all have to work, and like these things like happen at bad times for everything. It's just like, but yeah, there's a concerted effort that needs to be made, and we need to team up, and we need to go into spaces like this that are uncomfortable. But if there's a group of us, then all of a sudden the neighborhood watch meeting or the community meeting, however they've rebranded it, becomes a lot easier to get through and to speak up and to push back on the cop-led like discussion points that exist at all of them.
Exactly.
Keep an eye on them. Show up and keep an eye on them. You don't have to like put yourself out there, but keep an eye on them and report back to everyone else that like here, and we can annoy them all together.
Oh, you know what we also have to do as an act of radical practice is we have to start posting on Nextdoor. Like, we cannot let Nextdoor be what it currently is. We need to make Nextdoor fun. Hey, make Nextdoor fun again. Make Nextdoor fun again. Build the Nextdoor wall. I'm gonna make a Nextdoor account. I'm gonna get going.
I start lighting that up constantly just because I find it hilarious. When I was signing on with you guys, I was reading a post about a woman who was horrified to find a used firework next to her car. And it's like, you don't have any idea how incendiary devices work. Like, this is no threat to you at all that something landed next to your car. But the idea that you would take that out into the world and create a sense of fear in your neighbors that someone is now launching rockets at your house, like Hezbollah has moved in somewhere in the neighborhood, and there's incoming missiles now. But that's what Nextdoor has become, and it is what lends itself to the kinds of conversations that we're having, where it's not hard to get people scared, especially if they're already just peering out their mini blinds because they don't recognize those kids who are riding bikes past the house while chain smoking. And that's kind of where we're at as a city.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, in between like the commercial breaks of Fox News, they look out their window and they see a couple brown kids popping wheelies, and they go, "We need to shoot them." Right? Like, it's literally where we're heading.
Why don't we have stand our ground laws?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people in the city that would love to see that. But I think that's a good place to leave the power hour at for today. That was a really cool, weird, winding conversation, but I had a blast with it, and I'm happy we were able to do that. And I hoped all our regular Worcester Council Theater 3000 watchers enjoyed just hearing us ramble instead of making fun of Candy Merrill Carlson, which is also fun, but this is fun too. Yeah. I don't necessarily know how to transition this back out from.
Well, I think let's plug Antifa. Amazing.
Antifa, real quick with the Antifa. Wow, Adela Hazard, leader of Antifa.
If you want to listen to this podcast at any time, any episode, you can subscribe at billshaner.substack.com. And yeah, we're gonna do them all the time, forever, until we have 11 tells and twos on the city council, and then we can,
then we can pack up.
Then we're done.
And then we can march into the sunset.
Again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and now that we're back, let's talk about city council again. We're officially back into Worcester Council Theater 3000.
That's it.
Smooth
transition.
We're just in the at-large races, we have the ability to flip the balance of power. You don't even have to take the districts into account, and the districts are where we have a lot of room, I think. So I think that it's you never want to get too hopeful, because that's the most dangerous game that you can play in the city of Worcester, is to be hopeful.
Right.
But there are positive turns that have happened the last few cycles, like Bill said earlier, and they can continue to happen, and we just have to keep pushing.
Yeah, I think not for now, because I want to prepare some notes, and I also want to take a deeper look at campaign finance data that I had Yenni compile for me for my next election injection newsletter post, looking at like who's serious, who's not, who's actually trying, that sort of stuff. And I think it'd be useful for a stream in the future, probably a power hour stream, to like really game out the math here. And like, what are the scenarios, right? Like, what are the possible scenarios? Because when I've sat down to think about it so far, I'm feeling more positive scenarios than negative scenarios. Like overall.
I think so. Especially, yeah, like you said, like I've gotten a couple insights into things, and the amount of people that have declared or pulled papers that haven't filed with the state yet, and therefore can't raise money, is kind of eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cause for, I think, like good feelings.
The fact that Jose Rivera immediately demoted himself.
I don't think you can overstate that. The fact that he could not get 300 signatures, that's good of a
totally
sign
what
is.
happened. That's
It's
such a good sign.
There's just you just can't tell, like no one can tell me that is not what happened. Like
there's no reason you write in that release he was well on his way to getting, because that's just a total rookie. Like I know Walter. I know he's not the brightest bulb in the bunch, but I'm looking at that press release. I'm a campaign manager. I'm like, let's not talk at all about whether or not.
Yeah, why? Yeah, why are we telling on ourselves?
Why would we say that?
Yeah,
that's someone who was like, oh my God, if we just did like another week worth of work, we probably would have got from 220 to 300. Like, and just being like,
I want to know what he was at. I think he was at I think he was at 140. That's my guess, and I'd love to get the numbers on it.
It'd be awesome if he.
That is by far the stupidest campaign that is being run in the city as well, too. I don't know if you guys saw the press release that they put out most recently, suggesting that the colleges take in the unhoused population in their dormitories. But
Wait, no, I didn't see that. What?
So this is Jose's new plan to fix everything, is that during the summer, the colleges are going to use their unused dormitories for the unhoused population. But Walter put that out. Walter's the communications director for the Worcester Housing Authority, which would then lend itself to the idea that Walter has no idea what his job actually is or what his place of employment actually does, which presumably would involve housing people. But instead, we're going to put him at Worcester State.
Brendan, I'm so fucking mad at me now. How long have you known about this treasure gem of information?
I just sent it to you guys. I sent it to you guys a while ago.
Yeah.
Wait, you did? Oh, sorry. So you actually did send it to me and I just ignored it?
Not too long ago, though. We were already talking, so I apologize for not giving you a heads up. But yes, it's incredible because, again, there's just layers here to unpack. Not only is it a stupid idea, it's a stupid idea that's being ushered out into the ether by a guy whose job is literally to find housing for people who otherwise can't afford it in the city.
He really like the idea that he would get a job in public housing and then immediately
at this moment
run
in time.
At this moment in time, and then at the same time try to run a campaign that is directly antagonistic towards everything about affordable housing. Like the whole guy's whole shtick is just like single family homeowners are God and everyone else can get fucked. And Rivera has to try to like walk this tightrope of working for the public housing agency while running this campaign that's like expressly like we should intern the unhoused. You know, it's insane. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, Walter is one of the dumbest guys that Worcester's ever produced, and it's
Me and Lyford worked under him for
I just
so long.
It's so crazy to me. It's so crazy, like even just to have like the edit, like Brittany being the editor before him, to go from Brittany to Walter Bird was just such a kick in the shorts, like on its face, and then to just look back on the look on the history of that and where he's gone since then is just so wild.
Well, I mean, someone just mentioned in the comments too that it's like the problem with Jose is that when he articulates that right there, like he doesn't seem to have any idea what he's running on, but then he keeps putting out like these memes and social media that is like, it's not enough to know what you believe in. You have to know what you stand for or whatever. It's like, dude, you're actually running against somebody aggressively who clearly articulates the things that they stand for.
Right.
And you're not telling us anything other than no, and you couldn't find 300 people to sign your paperwork.
Yeah, it's just pure unfettered uncle energy. I mean, he is the uncle to Donna Colorio's lady uncle. And he doesn't know, like, this is the thing also, most Americans don't even know what their politics are. And Jose Rivera is a very good example of that. He just sees stuff come across his general media feed and goes, oh, yeah, I do remember when the bathrooms were only 2, you know? And like, that's the extent of his political project. And he just, it's such a, you know, I have the high ground Anakin moment because he's running against somebody who's able to articulate in probably the clearest way I've ever seen a markedly different, smart, and profound political position.
Yeah.
Like in the context of local politics. And he's just running like, I don't think the homeless shelter should be too close to the homes, you know, like, and he's going to try to like beat her on like this message that he doesn't even understand. He's just like, yeah, I was a celebrity in the loosest sense of the term a couple of years ago, you know, like it's
25 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't even bothered. I didn't know he was a boxer. I haven't bothered to waste the time to look into like what his boxing career was actually like. I was just like, okay.
I mean, it was more hope than actual results. He's you know the best boxer to come out of Worcester in a long time, but
all right.
Yeah, I mean, it was like it seemed like, you know, it's just one of those things, you know, people like, it's like if somebody's like pretty good, then they're
people like it.
Yeah. So
I mean, where I'm from, Milford, people still talk about how Joe Perry of Aerosmith was from the town over. It's like, yeah, he was from Hopedale. They played the Nipmuc High School prom in 1972. You know, it's like kind of the same bag. I get it.
Yeah. I don't even remember him having like a huge fight. Like I want to say, was he might have been signed to like Golden Boy, which is like Oscar De La Hoya's promotion.
I'm so out of my element on this. I have no idea.
It's like he was like he held belts, but not, you know, he never broke through.
But it also, I mean, to the commenter just made Brian just made the Herschel Walker comparison. Like, even if you're the most successful boxer to ever come out of anywhere, it doesn't mean you have good takes on politics.
Yeah. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, like it shouldn't. Yeah, he could be, you know, he could be George Foreman, and it still wouldn't matter if he's such a piece of shit. Like,
yeah, I'm not interested in much past your grill. That's about it. That's
yeah.
the little grill is awesome. Everything else, I'm not really here for it.
Yeah. Not to say that George Foreman is a piece of shit. I have no idea. Again,
awesome grill.
Yeah, great boxer, awesome grill. That's all I need to know. As long as you don't run for city council in Worcester, then I'm never going to look into it more. And I was happy. I was happy to let Jose Rivera just be like, a good boxer that works at the courthouse and is weird to see when you're down there.
Right.
But you want to go spouting anti-vax and anti-trans rhetoric and then pull papers, then we're gonna look into things and maybe also criticize your boxing career.
Yeah, right. You're not above that, guys. I'll be back in 1 second.
Where are we at? Still in the finance meeting?
Oh yeah, still in finance.
Gross. I don't want to see him.
No, good call. Good call.
Do we know what section of the budget they're going over, Travis?
Let me see if I can chime in.
I get a bounce for just one quick second. I will be back with you briefly.
Cool.
Something to do with traffic and parking subcommittee.
All right. Maybe they'll put up a crosswalk across from Zion Lutheran Church so that lady can.
So the rats can get across the streets safely. It's a weird night, huh?
Such a strange evening. What a weird time. I should spend this time a little bit. June 5th, we have the Top Dog Titan competition coming up. The Worcester Hot Dog Safaris hot dog eating contest coming up at Ralph's on June 5th. Some really exciting stuff coming up. We have some amazing contenders. The returning champ from last year, Matty T, is going to be defending his championship, his title.
Against a behemoth of a person?
There's a behemoth. Yeah. We have Tall Peter is going to be involved. Former champion Archie Bellos is going to be in there.
Whoa.
There's rumors that Eric Yankees Franco is coming back to the competition.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he bringing the ketchup?
It remains to be seen. You got to follow Worcester Hot Dog Safari on Instagram to get all the info. But it's an outdoor event during the day on June 10th. It's gonna be a great day to raise money for the Worcester County Food Bank. There might be some other stuff happening that day. There might be some exciting announcements coming up in the next few days. We'll have to see, but.
Okay, where would people see those announcements? All at Worcester Hot Dog Safari.
Worcester Hot Dog Safari on Instagram. Amazing. Not yeah, of course. Woot Nanny's got some great shows coming up. June 1st, we're coming back to the White Room, Trav, where we had the Roast of Worcester. We're very excited. We're doing our first stand-up show there. Ryan O'Flanagan, who's a friend of ours, a great comedian. You would recognize him. He showed up on New Girl a couple times.
Okay.
He's been in a bunch of different shows. He's in a sketch group called Dead Kevin that you can follow on Instagram. They're very, very funny. They do amazing stuff. He's going to be headlining there on June 1st. You guys should all come out and hang out.
That's awesome.
On June 30th, we're back at Ralph's with Kate Willette, who is an incredible comic who is super left-wing and would have lots of opinions on this shelter. So very cool. We're very excited to have her come around. In August, Eddie Pepitone's coming back to town.
You guys got Eddie to come back.
We got Pepitone coming back. If you've never seen Eddie Pepitone before, if you've seen it, if you've been to any of the Eddie Pepitone shows in Worcester, sound off in the comments. I know when Bill comes back, we can ask him. He knows very well how incredible this guy is. A legendary comedian, probably like honestly one of the best working comedians in the world. One of the funniest people I've ever seen in my life. And an absolute insane person. Totally crazy. If you've ever seen him before, you will never see the same show twice. Like I've never seen anything like it. He just doesn't he has material, and I've never seen him do any of it. He just starts talking and just goes nuts for an hour. Those ones, no, but we do have some stuff coming up that we can we will be able to announce soon. I think we're hoping to get hot dog online when we start doing that again. So
that would be super cool.
Yeah, working on that. But again, follow Woot and Eddie Comedy on Instagram for all those announcements. Bill, you've been to Eddie Pepitone.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
That guy is unreal funny.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And a sweet man. Just a really like
Yeah,
nice.
he hung out afterwards.
Yeah.
When he played Ralph's that time.
Absolute sweetheart. Yeah.
He was very nice. Yeah.
August 16th at the White Room. Make sure you get your tickets at our Eventbrite. So
yeah. Oh, that's at the White Room.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're trying out the White Room. We got a show on June 1st there, stand-up show.
Sweet.
And we're gonna bring Pepitone there.
Yeah, the White Room's an exciting space.
It really is. Yeah. Really happy with how it went for the roast and what they're doing there. Great gallery. People should support it. They have open gallery hours during the week. You just gotta head in there. They have a lot of great artists work up there. So
I think I could say that I'm going to have some of my artwork up on display there soon.
Oh, cool.
We're talking about, I'm bringing down some pieces at the end of the month to be part of an upcoming show. I'm super excited. I love Birgit and Louie.
Yeah.
If you ask Birgit what Worcester's smell is, she'll tell you that it's skunk, because before coming over from Germany, she had never smelled a skunk before. So there was a night when her and Louie were driving around and she was sticking her head out the window being like, what is that smell? It smells great. And Louie just goes, it's a skunk. She goes, it smells incredible.
You know, you guys want to hear something weird? I can't smell skunks.
Is it because you're German?
Yeah. Bryan Seamus O'Donnell, traditional German.
At some point in my proud German family.
Yeah, at some point in my life, I stopped being able to smell skunks. I absolutely cannot smell them. I could get sprayed by a skunk and I won't smell it.
That's crazy.
It's so weird.
You smell cannabis?
Yes, that's how when people go, is that a skunk or is that skunk? I can always tell them, because if it's weed, I can smell it.
Did you have some sort of traumatic experience that led to this?
No, but when I was a kid, my imaginary friend was a skunk.
Okay, wait.
Was your imaginary friend really imaginary, or was it an actual skunk that you palled around and you just kind of like built up immunities to the smell?
In my mind, he was a skunk and his name was Skunky, and he lived in the castle from Eureka's Castle. So I feel like he wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And he spoke. So either he's not real, or I was, my parents gave me ketamine.
Or you've proved that imaginary friends are real.
Okay.
Right? All right. Let me game this out. When that part of your childhood mind died, so did the skunk. Wow. And that's why you can't spell them anymore. But it was real. It was real. It was very real to you. More real to you than anybody else. And now skunks are irrelevant to you because that part of your childhood mind is gone.
I also watched the movie Drop Dead Fred a lot as a child, so this also could track about imaginary friends. So
that was a solid movie. I haven't watched it in forever, but I definitely watched it.
Used to rent it from Starship Video once a week.
You know what I did this morning? They just put the movie Heat on Netflix.
Yes.
And I watched it as soon as I woke up. Invested entirely in the entire thing, got out of the movie, shut the TV off, and I was like, I'm so fired up to write a fucking newsletter post right now.
Oh, I can imagine.
I cranked the entire thing that I was like having writer's block on for like 2 days. I cranked it out in like 2 hours. I was just like, I was fueled with just Al Pacino energy.
Like running to a van, typing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was like driving like a maniac to get back to where I write. And I'm just like, it was awesome.
That movie's incredible.
It really is
so much.
It's so
I
good.
mean, I know we started by talking, or when I came on anyways, talking about gun deaths in the United States. That movie probably had a lot to do with it, but that is by far one of the best shooting scenes in the history of Hollywood. It's just absolutely incredible.
Thousands of bullets. It was so sick. See, here's the thing. Guns in movies, great. Give me more of it. Guns in real life.
Guns is a literary device. Booyah.
Yeah. Amazing.
This is only tangentially related to movie making, but they are currently shooting Beetlejuice 2. I don't know if you guys knew that. They made a sequel to Beetlejuice 2, and they're doing a week of filming in New England for it. I think so. The original town in Beetlejuice is in Vermont. It's a real town.
Mm-hmm.
They only shot a few days there in that as well. The house is fake, everything is fake. But all the establishing shots and stuff like that are all in this real town in Vermont. So they're going back there, and then they're doing a little bit of shooting in Massachusetts for it as well. So I tried to get hired on it because there's nothing going on, and I would love to be able to say that I worked on Beetlejuice, even if it ends up being, bad, which it very well could. But Tim Burton is actually directing it, so
cool.
It's kind of cool. But so then I looked up the location manager for it to try and reach out to him, and this guy was an assistant location manager on Pulp Fiction.
Whoa, shit. So sick.
Yeah, like such a cool ass career to be like started with Pulp Fiction, which has sick locations.
Right. Yeah, what is it, like the
diner? Oh, the diner makes the whole movie.
Yeah.
So that diner
that's where I fell in love for the first time.
That diner still exists, and it's still standing. It hasn't been a working diner in over 25 years, I think.
Shit.
If you go by it, you can go to it set up as a diner. It's all the windows are covered in advertisements saying rent this location. It's only used for filming. You can just rent it out for filming, and that's their whole business operation, is to stay empty and then be used as a filming location.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, any WGA members living in Worcester currently that you know of?
There is, I believe, a WGA member living.
It'd be nice for
Worcester.
a Worcester Sucks article to try to talk to somebody, or even have them on the show here. Talk to a WGA member about the strike that is from Worcester or lives in Worcester.
Do you know Caitlin McCarthy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do.
I believe she's WGA.
Oh, interesting. All right, cool.
Right?
That's easy.
Yeah.
We DM.
I could be wrong. She's definitely a screenwriter, but I'm assuming she's WGA. And based on how much she posts about solidarity and stuff like that, at the very least, she's going to have some insight into it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. There probably are others, and they're, but as far as a local perspective that's kind of hooked into local stuff as well, I think she would be the one to.
Right. Yeah, because she's really hooked into the teachers union stuff too.
Exactly.
The teachers union stuff is interesting because they gave the teachers, from what I've heard, and this stuff hasn't really been all the way meted out yet. They gave the teachers a really nice contract, but raw dogged the para educators, bus drivers, other support staff, and tried to sort of break the strike that way, because the teachers are most of the voting membership on these sorts of things, and just seeing if they'll go with their own self-interest over solidarity with the rest of the workers, which is really, sucks because they're probably going to do that. And I don't actually know. I don't really know the latest on that. I haven't checked in since Friday with any of my people in the teachers union. But I don't know how they're going to play that one, but that's kind of an interesting thing right now, because from what I've heard, the contract offer for teachers is, somebody described it to me as historically good in the public sector.
Yes, 4% year over year.
Right.
A pretty significant bump, obviously.
Right, but
It's
then there's
the.
Go ahead. Sorry, Brian.
I was going to say it's going to put a lot of veteran teachers over 6 figures by the end of the contract.
And that's great.
Yeah,
obviously that's awesome that they got that. But one of the biggest sticking points for the entire action the entire time was the para educators who are making minimum or just above minimum wage hourly, not salaried. And I'm pretty sure what they're getting is almost nothing, not markedly different in any way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll reach out to a couple of my people too and see what they are hearing. It sounds like they think everyone's going to mostly go for it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
If that's a so if people are being left behind, or if maybe there is something in there that sweetens it for them a little bit, but who knows?
Something to look out for.
I mean, that's how it always is when you get into these labor actions. Is you end up like looking back on it and wishing for more, feeling a little dissatisfied with how it goes. I'm sure that's going to be what happens with the writers' strike. I don't know that. I don't know that anyone could sustain what it would take to really push it.
Right. Especially in the increasingly gigified and precarious position.
It's all precarious
of writers.
Yeah. And you'll start to see crew turn on it. That's what happened in the last writer's strike, is that IATSE kind of like the workers kind of started to get, lose their cool, which I mean, that's part of its tactics, is they've already been starving us out, and they'll continue to do so, and it'll just get bad for us, and eventually the pressure will be on from the other unions to for them to make a deal. The difference this time being that 2 other unions are on their heels, and so might not be pressuring them too much, but IATSE, we fucked up our shot, so I don't know.
Yeah, but
how long.
IATSE does physical, actual work in real life.
Yeah. And
I feel like recentering this strike around AI and the future of screenwriting isn't going to be a very resonant argument for people who can't have their jobs taken by AI,
But you can, honestly, because the more we get into that type of, the more, like, what they're really trying to do is reduce workforces, and we're already seeing that there are less jobs on set because of the advancements in technology. Anyways, that eventually they'll get to a point where like they'll try and AI everything. Like you can go online right now and look up like AI Wes Anderson Star Wars trailer, and
it's pretty good.
yeah, and it doesn't seem like there are that many iterations off of making that pretty seamless. So that means I'm gone. That means grips are gone. That means cinematographers are gone. That means, so if we're all being smart, then we should care, because we're just like if a domino goes down in front of us, then we're just the next one on the block. Like we're not spared, and we're not separate. It's kind of like the discussion we were having earlier. It's like we can't think that we're separate from that action, because it all has an effect, and they will do everything they can to replace us. They'll do everything they can to their detriment, but it'll still decimate the industry before they figure it out.
Right.
So
because like are they killing the real art of the thing? Yeah, but like if everyone with the money decides to kill the real art, then everyone's left with no real art, and there's no like alternative, So it just disappears.
Exactly. And then
then you'll just get to watch Heat and be like,
you'll get to watch
someone real wrote this script.
You get to watch an AI generated sequel to Heat that stars Bill Shaner because he paid money to have himself generated into the movie.
Yeah,
which
hell
is
yeah.
shot like Wes Anderson.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But that,
But,
I mean,
as a
that's the
designer.
next, like it's all complicated. It's all like so insanely detailed, but essentially but one of the biggest parts of the last few strikes, the one big angle on is that the agencies that represent like actors and creatives are also wrapped up in producing. They have money in like, packaging, they call it, and they have money on the producer side of it. So they're working both sides of the fence, and obviously there's more money on the producing side. So they kind of answer to the producers more
Right.
in a lot of areas. And the next thing that they're pushing is to have all of their clients license their image, license their likeness, so that you can make an AI movie starring Paul Rudd, doing whatever you want him to do. And that's the thing. That's another part of it. That's like, they need to head off that part, and make sure that doesn't become industry standard so that they don't, because then it's like, oh, I just am already famous, so I can be paid, 75 cents on the dollar to just give them my image and my reputation, and they can do whatever they want with it. And I never have to travel to Australia or, whatever. So
what a dark world.
Pretty grim.
We've been talking about a bunch of tough to care. Tough to care is the theme of the night. I really wish that that Mo Bergman said tough to care before I had published my most recent newsletter post this afternoon.
Incredible, Mo. Yeah.
Tough to care. I'm going to hold on to that. Mo Bergman, if you see me use that as a headline for a newsletter, be sure to make sure I give you credit somewhere in the story. Even though you're anonymous. Kind of anonymous, anonymous to most people.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can do a licensing deal now. A couple of us know the true identity enough to, make payments happen if they need to.
Yeah.
So
pay us for our silence.
Yeah.
So where are we at with the city council? Where are we at the city council meeting?
I don't think it's happening.
They're gonna go all night, and then let's go. Do we want to look at the orders? We did. I mean, we talked about them already.
I read some of the orders, and nothing was super piquing my interest.
Exactly. Okay. So
and there's no other agenda. But hold on, let me just try to figure out where they are on the finance committee agenda.
Cool.
Who are they talking to?
About start snowing.
Trying to get an idea of where that what's in that maintenance, repair, and equipment. And
Drew's drone order is interesting, but they'll force it to public safety, and we won't ever hear about it ever again.
Yeah, we're not going to hear about it. So him talking about snow removal suggests they're still on DPW. As I said before, the budget hearing, the DPW was the first budget that they were hearing out of 5 tonight.
Right.
Through the
So,
chair. Sorry, I'll try.
Hold on, I was on the agenda.
I'll try to capture the ones that I heard. But the maintenance repair of equipment is essentially traffic signal maintenance.
It is interesting to watch this for a second because
largely
you just see
traffic signals
like
as well, but there's
these
also
department heads
consulting
having
people
to
are-
like
are
good faith respond to
electricity, which is
wicked
obviously a small
fucking
share of
stupid
that.
questions from the counselors.
And then
And that's all these
the
budget
line
hearings
item
are.
pays
They're just like
for not only
trying to
the
make
purchase of
themselves
them, but
look like
also the installation,
they have
transport,
power,
and then
basically,
the
by
removal
asking
at
stupid
the end.
questions.
have you ever been in a conversation with somebody where you're like, every time they say something or ask a question, you do the calculation in your head of like, how much brain power am I willing to waste to try and get across a point that they're never going to understand? And then you kind of like, and that drains your like energy, willpower, like will to live. That's what I see when I see these budget meetings, is somebody turning to look at George Russell and being like,
where was that in previous
do I have enough smarts to dumb this down enough for you to understand it and for it to be worth my time? And the calculation ends up always being no, but they still have to do it anyways.
It's an obligation legally.
Yes.
And city councilors milk it.
Yeah. I think if Donna Clorio asked me a question in a budget meeting, I would just put out my hands to be arrested and ask them to throw me in a cell.
Lord help me. If that's the new transportation guy, then we are on the drum roll, please. Second of 6 budget hearings tonight.
Let's not do this.
I really don't think we should do this. I mean,
are we recording a second episode of the Power Hour right now?
Yes.
No.
Welcome back to the Worcester Power Hour, everybody.
I think we had a really good conversation. I think we had a great time hanging out with all our friends.
Yeah.
And I think we should celebrate the fact that we have a new t-shirt design in our store, newly discounted. Look at that. Look at the Hazard Club shirt. This is for fans of City Council. This is for fans of Anti-Racist Grandmas. This is for fans of Stranger Things, frankly. And I think that everyone should get one. Get any of our designs. We have our.
We make this
pen and pixel. We're making it. Yes, make it. Put it up. I'm making the call. Put it up. Antifa is our next one that we're coming up with. It's 26% increase. Let's address this quickly. Looking for a tip jar on your newsletter, Bill, and also they want it to be.
Well, there is $69 a year is an option.
Yeah.
The $420 a year option was supposed to be a joke, but several people have taken me up on that, so I am disincentivized from removing that.
You should make it. You should make one that's $420,666 a year.
Yeah,
and see if people
should.
do it. You just need one.
Also, there is a tip jar, sort of. I have been trying to put my Venmo and PayPal into every post recently. It is in the newest post toward the bottom after I plug for subscribers. So you can find a link to PayPal or Venmo me at the bottom of the most recent post. Or at the top of the last one.
Or follow Worcester Sucks on Instagram. Bill's got a new webmaster and they're doing an incredible job. So if you need more info or have any questions, then hit up the account and get some money flowing towards Bill that way.
Yeah. Ruth, thank you for even considering giving me money. I really
that's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll try to get my act together and make it easier for you to actually do that.
But make sure you're following. If you're not following BillShaner.substack.com, if you're not following us on Instagram, WCT3000, then you should be doing that because nobody has noticed in public yet, but I have tagged Beto O'Rourke in every single one of our stories for the past 8 weeks. Tiny little tags in the corner, and no one has noticed it. Including I think Beto O'Rourke, which we got a rumor that he's a fan of the show. That I don't know if we've talked about that on air, but it's a credible rumor that Beto O'Rourke has watched our show. So I guess if you want to help us, the best thing to do is follow us, buy t-shirts, and to tag Beto O'Rourke in comments about the show.
The only thing about the Beto O'Rourke rumor before we head out that really delegitimizes it, the rest of it is extremely tight as far as rumors go, is just fundamentally why the fuck would he do that?
Right.
Hard question to answer.
But here's my counterpoint to that, which I've been thinking about a lot, is impossible to make that up. Like, it's so weird to say that you couldn't possibly, like, there's no incentive, there's no reason, there's no angle, there's no inspiration point to make that up if there wasn't some kernel of truth in it. So,
like, it's more likely that it's just one of life's unsolvable mysteries than it is a contrivance or a lie or someone trying to pull one over on us.
Right. So again, let's get the answer.
Contains multitudes.
Yeah, hit up Beto O'Rourke. Tell him that he can come to City Council and jump on a table and confront our city councilors. I would love for that to happen. We will put him up. He can stay at my house if he wants.
Maybe it is
my dog.
impossibly easy to accidentally find this stream.
Yeah, right.
That's what I guess that's what we're finding out. Okay, that's good. Then we should have more viewers.
That.
Let's be honest.
yeah, we should consider exploiting that if that's the case.
Big
Again,
shout out to the 100 people that watch this stream on YouTube after the fact too.
Yeah,
wow, cool. Like, that's
solid
great.
Numbers on YouTube.
Yeah, well, that's probably where Beto is. So follow him on YouTube and ask him if he's watching. Follow Woot and Andy Comedy. Like I said before, we got a bunch of shows coming up. So follow us on there. Also, guys, I don't know if you heard, there's a strike going on in my industry, and I'm pretty poor right now, and I don't have any prospects for a job. So if you need like a commercial made for your small business, hit me up. Let's do something. I'm putting it out there.
Idea.
Yeah, I want to make commercials for Worcester businesses, and I can do that, and I'm pretty cheap, and I'm pretty good. So,
hell yeah,
please,
Brian.
I'm going to commission a Worcester sex commercial. Wait, hold on.
God.
Idea time.
Definitely do that. Definitely
get it on cable access.
Show people.
Oh my god,
get it on cable access, dude. I'll pay you. Let's talk about it. We're going to do such a sick commercial.
Well, it depends on the idea. Send me a DM and tell me what your idea, what your thoughts are, and we can brainstorm, and I'll tell you. Not crazy expensive. Most people charging you for production will charge you in the tens of thousands of dollars. I will not do that. You will get me cheap. So, especially if it's a weird idea, the weirder, the cheaper. So, hit me up at any time, anybody. And Bill, yeah, let's talk afterwards.
I'm excited about this idea.
So, let's close with the greatest local commercial of all time. This is the type of thing that I'm thinking.
Massage, Jones barbecue and foot massage. Better come down here, get some of this shit. You like to eat. America loves to eat. So why not open up somewhere America can sit down, enjoy a meal, and get their feet rubbed? We'll fry anything you want for $5.99 as long as it's friable.
This guy's a feet
edible,
expert.
We're gonna make it deliciable. We will fry parts of the chicken you didn't even know was friable. The beak, the feathers, we'll fry candy bars. All that European stuff that you don't really normally eat, we'll bring it down here and fry it for you. Ask McDonald's to fry something other than
Dude,
what
I'm
they
in
normally
love
fry.
with this.
Guess what you're gonna get? Nothing. If it fit through the dough, I'll put it in the fryer. Hell, this is a dinosaur. All our meats are gently tenderized to their optimum deliciousness. We got fine dinosaur meat. Took my money, made me pay child support. Come on down here and get you a slice. Once they get your social security number, it's over. Motivated. So friends, let's just decide you don't want no barbecue. Well, that's fine too. Why not let one of my foot specialists or myself perform our magic? Look at that. Don't they look wonderful? If you really pay me enough, we'll massage your feet in any of these sauces also.
Can we just pretend this guy's a sponsor?
Good ass barbecue and foot massage. So go
Just
ahead
cut
and
away
give
from
me a call.
Donna
Find us on
Colorio
them
talking about
worldwide
ranch.
internets at
Just
the
like
new
play this
website.
ad.
That's JONES big ass truck rental and storage.com /Jones good ass barbecue and foot massage .html.
Was a real website at one point. So there you go. I can do that. I can do that type of thing for you and your local Worcester business. So, thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you all for getting surprise podcasted at. We appreciate you all. We love you so much. We will be back very soon. Is there a meeting next week? I don't even know.
I believe it's going to be more. It's going to be more budget stuff and.
All right. Well,
who knows?
You better follow us on Instagram then, or on social media in some way, and stay tuned here. We will let you know when we are back up, and we will see you some Tuesday, everybody. Good night. We love you.
Good one.
Bye.
See ya.